and welcome to the Screenaholics podcast. I'm Mark Dittmer. This is episode 17. Our guest is Sasha M, and Sasha is a not a real estate, an estate manager for a winery, and we got to do the interview. This was a really fun interview. Got to interview a beautiful woman about dating. Obviously, a good time to be had there. She hosted it in this wonderful location, which you get some of the drift of, and then we kind of switch locations. I want to interrupt this discussion of what the interview was about to address the technology and technical things, such as just the little details of the podcast that you might not think about. For example, the fact that 2 days after doing the interview, I'm recording this intro, and I took the trouble to put on this same shirt that I was wearing 2 days ago. And you may think, why would you do that? Well, it's professionalism. That's why. So that's the good, but there's other. I'm proud of the professionalism of this podcast. That's why I'm trying to look at the camera right now, not look at the ceiling like I just did a second ago. As I strive for the professionalism, I try to take around all the equipment I need to record the podcast. But though all my equipment seemed great at the outset of our podcast, we recorded this Wednesday. No, today's Wednesday. We recorded this Monday. What soon developed were battery issues, and I needed a better cord. And luckily, Sasha was very helpful. She had some backup cords, and she was patient. We took a walk while we were waiting for the computer. At one point, we took a break between sessions of recording and plugged the computer in and took a walk while we waited for it to recharge itself. And then at the it was gloriously recharged itself. But then after another hour plus of talking, and we were about at the end, I was looking over to the computer, and all of a sudden the whole thing just shut down. And so I went home from this session wondering if thinking it could have all just disappeared, and then we would have no evidence of this conversation and all the ideas and thoughts and that we discussed. But it did save. So you'll see the final part of it cuts off a little early, and but not. It kind of worked out. We were just wrapping up. So we talk in this episode. So enough about the technical stuff. Those are some of the technical challenges of episode 17. Thanks to my buddy Alex, who is handling, cleaning up some of the sound. So if the technical product seems better than usual, it's because of him. As for the content of the episode, it's the second in a series. I'm not sure how long of a series on dating and online dating and modern dating, which is a subject I've thought about for a few years, because it's just interesting how there's this sense. I mean, I guess you have to be of a certain age to even come up with that. Like if you're young, you just start dating and being romantic and whatever, and you don't think about another time when dating was different. But when you're middle-aged, let's say, you can start to think how dating used to be innocent, and now it's filled with hesitation and trepidation and doubt and concern, and that's not true for everybody, but it's just sort of like a sense of when you lose the naivete of youth, then you go into dating and maybe you and there can be hang-ups, and you notice the like there's phrases like meat market or you know when the whole thing where you swipe right and you swipe left, it's like a cruel economy, one might say. And so that whole thing, I think it's an interesting topic. People like to talk about it, and it's nice to have female perspectives on it. And as a single man, I particularly would have reason to seek out such perspectives. So it's really cool having such a beautiful guest like Sasha, who I'll wrap up this intro by saying that at the end of the episode, you'll see me like 15 seconds before it ends. You'll see me. I kind of like look at the camera. I'm getting ready to wrap up, and the wrap up line in my head was, Sasha, and I was gonna say, Sasha, thanks for being so beautiful, and I didn't decide not to say it. I decided not to say it right then because I was like, well, what if she still has something else to say? I want to say that at the end to sort of make sure it's okay with her to wrap up. And then poop, like the computer dropped out, the technical difficulties like I'm talking about. And so I had to just wait and say it now in the intro. Thanks also, but I should also say, and then this will make the compliment seem diminished, but I'm going to say this anyway. Thank you to you, the Screenaholics podcast listeners, for being so beautiful. You are you are the essential members of this community. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. May all your wishes come true. May all your endeavors be met with success. And may all your relationships flourish. Have a blessed day. Godspeed.
So I feel, we talked about when, we talked about before we even got here that how there was that pressure, like first of all, because I'm single and everybody thinks I should be coupled.
Yes.
And, like, why
Yes.
aren't you dating? And da da da
Yes.
da. I'm like, well, I'm not close to it, but at this point, I've dated, I've been on dating sites before, kind of more like consistently, and it obviously was. Here I am again. Here I am, and I just now I'm like, okay, now it's more of a if it happens, but I'm not like putting pressure on it, so it's kind of nice. But then the next thing is when you do go on a date and there's that pressure of when where do you go, like what is the most comfortable place, and like and a lot of women are under the opinion that you should go take you out on this like nice dinner and pay for everything, and like all like has to be like
Mm-hmm.
very flawless. And I think that's like not realistic unless you're very like some high level, as they call it, all the shots, like nothing is a problem, and maybe, but like how many, I don't necessarily have to be with that person. I'm not saying there's not a cool guy out there in that territory, but I'm like, well, let's be more realistic. Most guys are not on that level. Let's give them a little bit of a room to, not feel pressured and uncomfortable, and just and for me also, what I would appreciate with a guy is when he takes the initiative to say like, hey, would you be okay if we go like would you like to go this place and that place? Like he gives it a thought and he puts an offer. Like a lot of the times they're like, where do you want to go? And now I'm like having to like gauge, where would he be comfortable, and that's it. Like I'm always the kind of person I would still at the very least offer to like pay for whatever we choose to do.
Right. So yeah, there's sort of
There's like there's before just step onto the first date. I feel like there's always that like element at least that I think of.
I feel like yeah, when I grew up sort of hearing like my parents are kind of liberal, and so my mom's I would say a feminist, and so like
Love
it's
that.
like okay, everybody should be equal, and so I show up at my first date, and definitely my first move is like, well, what do you want to do, and sort of had to learn that like no like you're supposed
It's
to
still like
there's still like well there's a difference between men and women, and therefore and so women like manly traits, and one of them is like to be decisive about to be decisive, take over, lead a little, like on the
yeah.
dance floor. I don't know.
Yes,
Do you dance?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
a very good dancer.
oh yeah. What kind of,
Anything. I'll do anything.
really?
Yeah.
So well, see that I would think that would be a good place to meet people as opposed like even do you is it
Dancing?
yeah yeah
Um, no, because I think a conversation is still, like, I mean, he might be a good dancer, but like he might like lack the social skills. And for me, that's like that's important to me.
sure sure
Like I'll give it a try, of course, but
um right but I guess there's that whole. I guess the leading and following is the thing that comes from that you could learn. But
yeah,
then you're talking about the uh, you have, as a woman you get to choose. Have your standards for what should a man should offer, but he doesn't need to have this much money in his bank account or whatever. That's kind of what you're getting at, right? Like
yeah.
it's good to ask.
Personal opinion. I
Mm-hmm.
feel there's a lot out there nowadays that I mean, he has the way he's described. He has with everything going on and how expensive everything is, like in the way these women are kind of see like he has to be this, like he has to be like taking me on vacation. I'm like, okay, you're looking at a millionaire, and how many of us meet millionaires, on a daily basis? Like I
Mm-hmm.
do, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm like for work all the time
Uh huh.
actually.
So yeah, I mean,
And they're not all
it would be
nice
nice to
people.
have that security, but
It would be nice to have that security, like. But what I would define is he needs to be comfortable,
mm-hmm.
like at a comfort level. At least where I'm comfortable, he needs to be comfortable with. So it wouldn't be a point for me dating somebody that he can't really like. I mean, and I'm not a high maintenance, but still, like I like to get in my car and go and like camp somewhere on a weekend, and but go out for dinner night, in a nice place, and I like to do those things for myself. So at the very least, he needs to meet me like halfway there. So
Yeah, hopefully he's not like, can
a
I borrow
person
some
that gives you
money?
that,
Can I,
yeah.
can you help me out, or I need a loan or something like that. That's not a
Yes,
good.
exactly. Like I couldn't date someone that he can't like do pay their rent, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's realistically, it's just because at that point I'll be just with my personality, I will be always helping and leaning. And I'm sorry, I have a son. That's like at this point I've come to that realization. There's no I've had to there's been a few issues that I had to like put my boundaries on that specifically.
Around men you've dated, or around your son? Like, I guess probably a little bit of both.
With men I've dated,
Yeah, yeah,
like I can't
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we're focused on anyway. So like, but just having a son probably helps you see it. See what dependency looks like. And it's like, oh, so if you see it in a man, you're like, hey, you're acting like my son. He's a child.
exactly,
You're an
yeah.
adult. Okay. But besides like your standards for a man, there's also the sense of like, this is another online debate. We talked offline about some other online topics, and one was this idea of like, should women or are women today trying to be girl bosses, or like there's a girl boss and then there's the trad wife. Have you heard? So like, the trad
Ooh.
wife is like stay at home. Like some women are like supposedly ready to be stay-at-home moms. That's trad wife, and then some women are more like, no, no, I'm gonna make more money than I'll be the breadwinner in the house or something like that. I don't know. Is that something that do women talk about that? Because I feel like I hear it from the men's perspective.
Oh yeah, there's I mean I'm certainly in online communities. There's a little bit of both,
Yeah, yeah.
and there's the tribe life. And one thing I could tell you is what I a lot of the things I do hear from these women, I'm like, oh, I could never do that.
Really, yeah.
Like, so like that's where I know I would never be a tribe wife.
So give me an example.
So it's just like getting up early and like preparing all these like I don't know. It's just a lot of it is like posting like my hubby this, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like just so like I don't, and I don't know. I feel like like usually that would be like a more of like a stay-at-home mom, and and I'm like at this point, like I feel like all your decisions in life depend on your husband's kind of
Right. Right.
grace
Right.
and tolerance, and my experience with men hasn't been that like graceful, so I feel you know that's like yeah that like certainly I wasn't raised in that way. Like I feel like like it was very equal in my family, but my dad was like very like much that person who step in and do this and this and this
Mm-hmm.
and I had a great role model.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I don't know, for one reason or another, I was just a little softer, and I would always kind of take in a person that like needed a little more push and help, and I was always the stronger person in a relationship. So at this point, I'm like very careful about like not allowing that to happen because it becomes uncomfortable.
So that.
It's not something I want to do. I certainly don't like to be told
Mm-hmm.
what to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't want to be like this super initiative. So if I'm in a relationship, I like it equal.
So
I don't want to be like the girl boss.
it's somewhere in between the girl boss and the trad wife, I
Yes.
guess. Right.
Yes.
So, but and in a way, it sounds like you've probably you trad wife wasn't even really an option. Like, because it would be an option if somebody came on and said, "Hey, I've got $1 million, and here's and I'm treating you really nicely, and yada yada." But that's not out there very often. So therefore, you kind of have to take care of yourself. So
Yes, I like that was the trend for me early on in a way. And I've been in some, like kind of like mid dating level, like not too serious. Like I've been in equal
mm-hmm.
relationships, but for one and another reason didn't work out. Um, but that would be most comfortable to me in a relationship. Like when he likes to take initiative and take me, surprise me, but he also doesn't treat me like I have to always do what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that, and it's like wow, I can never imagine somebody being like that dominating over
Yeah.
me.
This is kind of off topic, but it's a little bit like it just seems it's kind of interesting because you come from Bulgaria. You mentioned your parents and their like the level to which your dad and mom were. So your dad was like they were your parents were kind of equal, but your dad was kind of masculine and decisive or whatever, right? But like, was that in Bulgaria?
Well, my
And how?
mom kind of, like it was very cool because my mom always kind of would like be the leading force
Oh yeah.
essentially, but he had that, he would show up
Uh huh.
as a man,
Uh huh.
and it was perfect.
Uh huh.
And like they did well in many aspects.
You have
They worked
siblings?
a lot, so like a lot of like I did kind of I felt like I don't feel like I don't feel like poor me, like I didn't get like
Mm-hmm.
my parents to come to all my plays, and they did, but like late. They were most of the times they were there, but I also learned that independence. And I was like, well, they just, they were busy people. They work, but they were still like loving and caring and showing up, and like that like level of parenthood, that it wasn't just like, here's some money and go or whatever. No, it wasn't that. We would still do our vacations and family time, and so it was, but when they worked, they worked. And it wasn't like, I feel like a lot of times that nowadays, like I see how I have to be in my son's school a lot, and if I'm not, it's like you're not like a good parent almost. And and it's like back in the day, we spent a lot of time alone. Like I don't know how it was with you, but we
Yeah.
you know we won't see our parents until they come back from work, and we'll be at home alone, and it was okay. But anyway, I'm just saying, like I had that relationship model that that my dad would step in just like we had to, and my mom would like still take care of house and work and
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was yeah, something that I didn't necessarily see in my relationship. At least it was cool in the beginning, and then it kind of like I made them very comfortable, so they kicked back, and they're like, "Oh, she's got all this." And I'm, wait.
So, mm, yum. Um,
This is good, right?
so, you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I have a sister.
Mm-hmm.
She's 2.5 years older than me.
And your parents were both this is in Bulgaria you were growing up?
Yes, I grew up in Bulgaria. My parents still live in Bulgaria. I'm here
Were you
with
in were you
grandpa.
in the city or in a country like this type of place?
It was a city.
In the
Yeah,
city?
we lived in a like I grew up in an apartment, which is
Okay.
very common where I come from.
Okay. Well, how different was it culturally? Yeah, what's the cultural and how old were you when you moved?
So I first came to the states in 2004, and I've kind of used to
20
come
years
here
ago, yeah.
for 2004. I've come several times for internships and stuff, just in the wine industry here. And like at the time, I was still going to school for wine and all that back home. So I would come and do like little internships in the industry during harvest time, winemaking and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I've been here before, like 2004, 2005, 2006. Then in 2007, I went and did one of those winemaking internships in New Zealand, and I ended up staying there like full time work for about almost 5 years.
Okay.
And then in 2011, I moved here to California. So I've been here, 14 years now.
Okay, so got it. So back a little back and forth from 2004 to 2011.
Yeah, so a little bit back and forth, kind of like I didn't, and at the time I was like, oh, I would not, I don't know if I would live here. Like, but I also, wasn't seeing it in that way because I don't know, it was just different. Where I lived, it was a little different. And then here, it's kind of, I love that it's close to San Francisco because I like that social, I mentioned, like, I like being close to nature. I like kind of the rural setting and peace and tranquility, but I also like to have a social life and just meeting people and yeah, I like that to be close, I guess. So I wouldn't be the kind of person that would like completely go off the grid and live somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think that I'll be okay, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's within 40 minutes to an hour, of course.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so, but I guess then you would have. So when you were so you had a chance to do some dating in Bulgaria, I guess then, right?
You know
But it's a different.
what?
Yeah.
It wasn't like kind of like that. That's the thing. I did not have a very good experience. So when I went on to online dating after my divorce, I was like, it was, I was like, whoa, I did not know. Because I think when I was growing up in Bulgaria, it was kind of, like I mean, I did date people, but it was kind of like you go on a date and you basically become like that's your boyfriend now, and now you kind of like, dating, and it was that kind of thing. Like you just go out and do things together. But I wasn't like serial dating kind of in a way. I don't know.
So you could have a. So it's like
You
you
know
have a
someone.
boyfriend for a while,
Yes.
but you meet in school. It's different than meeting in school
Or
as a
through
kid.
friends, mutual friends, or whatnot, and then you know that person, and eventually you kind of like you linked up, and you start dating, and and he calls you, and you call him, and whatever you go out and meet with friends. But so that was kind of throughout high school and college. Had like maybe two boyfriends.
Mm-hmm. So
I
then,
didn't live with anyone.
right,
I didn't have experience with living with anybody
right,
until, gosh, I was in New Zealand.
right. Oh, that's right. So we had New Zealand in there, but so then in dating, but then you came over here. You did some dating over here
Only
uh,
after I got divorced
after you got
in the
divorced.
States. So well, when I was here before, I guess I did kind of, well, I guess it was, I meet,
The apps were
I
just
met
starting.
guys, but it was, yeah, I did date somebody, maybe. Yes, that's right. Now that I think about it, you know what I mean? I did date people.
Uh huh.
I, ge- I was looking. because you see, this is the thing. It's so nowadays, few years after, now that we're in this social media like
Mm-hmm.
era, when I think dating is like when you go online and meet someone, But I was dating, but we were all meeting organically.
Uh-huh.
See,
Yeah.
there's a difference. So that's what I'm saying. And things were different then. And we'll go out with this person, and I didn't think like he's like talking to a bunch of other people at the time. So it was kind of like very. It was easier to navigate, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that maybe something about also it's easy, it's quicker to think of the other people because you because it's so easy to see the other
So easy.
people in just like in that context. Like if you're meeting on an app and you're like, oh, you just they're just one. It's just so close to them to each other. Whereas I guess if you meet organically, you don't see the other person's. I mean, it's always true that other people have other options,
Yes.
but that really brings it. Online dating really brings that home. It's like, yeah, other options. Like,
Yeah, and man, did I have a awakening. Remember, so that was me. Like when I first started dating, and I'll be like, I'll talk to a few guys, and then so, like it's always a thought process with women.
uh huh,
Like they're not like just so oh okay, he looks cool. Like let's talk to him, and then you start like hitting it off, and then like okay, let's take it to the next level and meet and. We meet, and I think now that we've committed to me, like he's just kind of responding, like texting with me and all that. And I thought it's okay. And then I go home and I didn't hear back for a minute. I'm like, oh. And then, it did like he gets back to you, the next day or whatever. But it's like, okay, maybe, it's like, okay, there's that rule. That's fine. And then it started to get, like until the next day was like, we don't really talk that much. And then like I started putting it together basically. But then a friend of mine, she was a little bit more ahead of that, and she's American. She's like, "Oh, girl, like you don't just like stop talking to other people. You still keep your options open."
yeah,
And that was a concept I did not think about until that moment.
yeah,
And I was like, at first I was like, "Oh my god," like I felt weird. But then when I got it, I was like, I wasn't mad at these people. I get it.
mm-hmm.
I should just be doing that too, and it was just not a habit for me
I
because
mean,
I was just getting into the online dating.
I kind of remember that too, even before online dating, but just sort of knowing. Well, it's like they went together, but it's sort of like knowing. Oh yeah, it's good to you know, you don't need to commit to somebody until you've been out with them like 6 to 10 or 12 times, because you don't know like you don't yeah you don't
I thought we
partly
knew, but
was that
I thought we knew, and that's when it was like, oh,
you thought
I took it a little personal at first, and
sure
then when I realized it, when I understood it,
right
I was like, oh, okay, I got it. Like I don't take it up personally, but
right
I was also like me growing up a little bit, but yeah, that
right
was different.
right. I mean, it's like well, and then there's basically two. So I've heard this online that like what women hold the women are the have hold the gate to like like sexual activity, like women decide when sex can start, you know what I mean, whereas men decide when it can be like a committed relationship, because basically
Oh,
that's a
that's
barrier
true.
for each one. Is that
Never
sort of
heard somebody put it in a sentence, but that is so spot on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess maybe as a
Yeah, I can't just
growing up
tell.
it seems like well those things go together, but it's like well no, they're actually they kind of are separately decided, like because then you have this whole gray area of relationships that are what sexual but not committed, right? And that's a whole
Yes.
thing.
Which like I said, I did not, for some reason, that wasn't, I wasn't familiar with that concept up until, like 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Until after post, yeah, and I guess I mean I think we're all because we were talking about non-monogamy or like people going infidelity, so like we knew that there was that amount of that's I guess sex without marriage, right?
Yes, so I guess I've known about it, but I wasn't really so much. I wasn't um, paying attention. I knew there was like people that are like, I knew swingers. It was like,
Oh,
it
swingers,
was a
yeah.
swingers. It wasn't like open marriage. It was swingers back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel,
That's a
and
good
I
point.
knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, yeah, I didn't, I couldn't relate at the time. I think the person I was with, like, I don't think that would have ever been an option. That never crossed my mind, also. So it wasn't like something that I was considering to say. As I learn about all these levels of relationships, and I'm like, okay, and I have friends that are in open marriages and open relationships and stuff, and I get it. I've never been in one, at least not consensual. But yes, I almost dipped my. That was like very weird. I had an idea this was happening, but he wasn't open about it. He wasn't telling me. He was like, oh no, no, she's just my ex girlfriend. She's a friend. She's a very good friend. And no, she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting. But and the thing is, now that, like, post the fact, when I realized it, I was like, well, I don't think I would have been against that, or be so, like, I just felt like weird because he was just being dishonest.
But
And I was like, you know what? I don't need this.
that's the like I guess that's the oh no that's the claim of I think I had the camera on the wrong. You were talking. I had the camera on me, just sitting there. It's okay. Anyway,
It's okay.
um, uh, ethical. They say ethical non-monogamy. So it's like I think that's the idea. There's like, okay, if it's just honest, then it'll be okay.
He wasn't doing it.
But like I don't know. To me, it's kind of like I don't think there's anything really good there. I don't know. It's like plan out like I don't know. I mean, I understand I certainly understand the urge. Like, of course, I think men would have a more fun with non-monogamy. Than for men, it's more it would become more naturally to us. Like, oh yeah, non-monogamy, woo. Like, but
Men have feelings too.
we
I've
do.
heard that.
I've heard that. You've heard that.
I actually have heard the story of, a couple, like, from both sides, from her and from him.
Mm-hmm.
They're both my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're not together anymore and whatever, but, like, I'm still close with them, and I've heard the story from each side, and sometimes it's the woman that makes that
I
decision,
agree.
and
I don't doubt it.
the man kind of follows suit, and he doesn't always feel comfortable, and I feel like, there's that joke. Which one? Which whose idea was it, and whose one is crying to sleep every night?
Right. Right. Right.
And there's
That's
that,
right.
and I often, like, I do feel there's a lot, like, I have met a very few people that are, like, super comfortable about it, and I don't really know them that well to know the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, there was some issue that, like, arise, and so I don't know. There's always a mess up situation. The way I was, like, brought into one closely was because I was seeing a person, thinking that we're just kind of like seeing each other now at this point, like it's just me and him. Um, but he would still go, like, MIA for a while, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna track him down. I'm not that person. I'm not, like, but then I'm like, I want to go out to see this thing with him, and, like, why is he not, respond, all this, and when I noticed he would be uncomfortable about it when I asked, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? If that's the case, like, I don't want to be, I am not comfortable to always be uncomfortable
Yeah.
having this conversation, so it's probably, like, not a good, let's just end it. And it brought up that chain reaction. All of a sudden, this woman reaching out to me, and then I found out that they've been, like, kind of, that's the ex-girlfriend, that they've been kind of, like, he's been basically, like, with her and with me at the same time, and he was actually trying. At that point, she had found out, so now he's trying to, like, put us together in a room, and I was like, okay, this is, like, a little too far.
See, I think my philosophy would be like the reason that people lie
I felt
about it,
ambushed.
the reason people lie about it, and are dishonest is because it's hurtful and it's not functional. Like so you feel like, oh, we're gonna bring it out into the open and that's gonna make it, no, it's not gonna make it better. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be bad. So like so I think that's like kind of a it's kind of a it's like, oh, honest, like I'm gonna shed light on it. Well, it's good to repent if you want to, like, you know, I don't know. That's just I'm just thinking that. But I think you were saying about how like it used to be swingers, right? That was an
That
extreme
was
thing.
the
Like swingers is like most people just want, you know, if they're having sex, they're monogamous and that's it. But but swingers had this other way of doing
arranged
things.
marriage.
But now in our society, the swingers have become like almost everybody, or like it's like swinger ethics are now like kind
Yeah,
of
you go on dating and just like, oh, it's me and my girlfriend, and we're looking for
yeah,
whatever, and
yeah,
I'm like, okay, there's
yeah,
a lot of that,
yeah,
and I haven't crossed that line yet. I haven't said yes to any of those.
yeah,
But I did go out with a guy
uh huh,
who openly said like, my wife and I had opened. So basically, what happened is the wife like was sweet on somebody else, and she
yeah,
to make it normal, and she's this cute little chick, and I guess, like he couldn't say no to her, and now he's trying to catch up to her, and it was just, it was just too awkward. Like I met up with her, and I was like, it was just awkward. I was like very free and being myself, and I was like, he wasn't bringing his wife into it, but she was having her fun with this other guy, and that was his time to like kind of go and find. And it was like, he was just too like you could tell that guy was like uncomfortable. He was just trying to catch up to whatever was going
it's
on the other side, and it was just like it wasn't gonna work out. But I gave it a try. I went out with him and
yeah,
learned his story,
right
and
on,
I'm like,
yeah, no,
first of all, I could never live up to like his wife,
yeah,
and I wasn't gonna try, But I'm like also like I like when I go out with somebody to be like for him to be into me. I'm not gonna be like I'm not gonna play the second the.
it's a we. I think that's what I mean. It's like, oh, it's ethical non-monogamy, but really, it's because we're being more honest. But really, the dishonesty is like somebody decided they wanted to break up, but they didn't want to have to deal with this hard conversation of breaking up. So to avoid it, they came up with this
Yeah.
honest plan. That's but like it's really just you know it's bullshit. It's not
I
like
would,
not
yeah, I would
everybody's not happy
assume
with
so.
it.
Like, I don't know if at any point, like, if I'm in a serious relationship and I would, be going like, let's open it, like, because
No.
at this point, like, for me, I could, I know I'll be okay if we separate. We don't have assets together, whatever. So I'll be like, I mean, that assuming that because I don't know,
Right.
assuming that. I'll be like, at this point, you go do your thing, and if we cross paths again, I wouldn't be mad at him, but like, I wouldn't be like, want to be like childish, like him going and doing, and I have to think like, how far did he take it? Like, is he like into her now, like more than he's, that kind of stuff. I don't know. For me, it's like I like to be, I like attention too. Like I don't want to have to compete for attention. Like I would not compete for attention. I would just let you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe like for it to work, it would have to be like some weird, unique situation where like maybe like three people just love each other. There's like some kind of maybe there'd be like a same sex attraction in
Yeah.
there, and so then they could if they all love each other, then there's like a then it could work. But that brings in that. So that's also more present today. Like there's like LGBTQIA plus is like
Yeah. Family unit as
way
we
more
different.
common. What's the so have you so I'll this is an awkward question, but like what's yeah any experiences with same sex attraction or like
There
yeah
was a moment, and I can tell you what happened. So I was kind of in that
Alex
like,
we'll make a short of this part of the okay go ahead.
oh, you want to like pause it right now and.
No, I was joking that like this is a highlight. We need to highlight this part of the. This is a good.
Okay, because it's gonna be like, no, it's not that spicy, but there was, a moment when I was, like I was hitting a wall with like, I'll go out with guys, and they're the guys that I would like, and they're cute, and they're just like you could see they're not, we're seeing each other, but there's that level of disconnect still. And myself don't like to go and like have to like pressure. I'm not gonna put a pressure on anyone. but at one point I have that conversation. Like I guess, like look, I'm seeing there's the commitment level is not like not
Mm-hmm.
where I would like it, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's not no point.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not. It's so there's been a few of those, and then and there's some guys that I thought they were cute and I was attracted to, but it was like okay, this is it, and it sucks. But I'm like, I'm not gonna like cry over it. I
Well, but it was during one of those times that you.
and at one point I was like, well, guys are really weird. Let me see what's going on the other end.
Yeah.
But also, it crossed my mind, but I've never really like I didn't think I was attracted to women like that. And then I was at work one day, and there was a woman who came, with her mom,
Uh-huh.
and she was obviously lesbian, like no doubt, like very
Interesting.
and she just like the way she talked and looked at me, I felt something. I was like, oh my god, like she just like it was just that instant like oh like it's almost like I would go out with this woman like but we didn't get to that conversation at all, but it was just very very playful, very intriguing, very kind of like there was that tension that
Mm-hmm.
I felt. So I went home and I told my friend about it. I was like, this is interesting. I'll explore it. So I went online, put I matched with a few women, I talked with them or whatever, and I matched with this one girl I remember, and we talked for a little bit, and then like that trend went away, like and maybe like my mind got occupied. I started talking to another guy or whatever, like
Yeah.
something, so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So I put it to rest, and
Yeah.
then fast forward another year, and
Mm-hmm.
like I'm still kind of in this situation, and like like I was kind of in between somebody like I was seeing a guy, and he was just like playing this like you can't pin me down like and
Yeah.
I'm like okay, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
whatever, so you do your thing, I'll just do my thing, and I'm trying to get distracted, and I was like let me try this again. I matched with girl, but then I matched with this one girl again. So I was like, now at this point, I told her like, look, we matched last year if you remember, like a year ago, and like I would you like to go out and and just
Mm-hmm.
hang out. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been like
Yeah.
I've kissed a girl, like we'll drink with my friends,
Sure.
whatever.
Sure. Sure.
But like it wasn't um and we go out and then we go to this the Harbin Hot Springs, if you heard of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a very kind of spiritual place. She's very spiritual. She's like she's a mom. She's divorced, and she's beautiful. And we met, and we kind of had this beautiful moment, like just kind of like soaking up and talking about each other's lives, and we connected like very like on a friend level. And there was a little bit of tension, but it almost like like we kind of like just did very like it was very innocent in a way. Like we didn't go too far. You know what I mean? Like just kind of yeah a little bit, but that was it. And then we kind of kept in touch, and then um, we kind of realized that it was becoming more of a friendship than anything else. We had too much in common, like with our past marriages and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
fast forward today, like she's still my very good friend. She ended up moving back to the East Coast. We keep in touch a lot, but she introduced me to one of her ex-boyfriends that she had dated after like she separated with her husband. Her husband and her were like in an open marriage. She initiated that like she had a girlfriend and her husband fell in love with the girlfriend.
See, it
All
makes
that
more.
stuff.
It
Yeah,
makes more
it was
sense with the. Yeah. Yeah.
complicated,
Make.
super complicated.
Yeah.
So I've heard her side of the story. I knew about like how her husband did her wrong and all that. Da, 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 da. Then I she introduced me to her really good friend who dated, but now they're very close. And he's his darling. He's still my very dear friend. We're very close. And he had like become very good friends with her ex-husband. So now they're both living here. They're best friends. I'm best friends with them. We hang out all the time. I told them they're husbands. We're just that dynamic. This is all strictly platonic. And my friend lives in the East Coast, and we still kind of have that. I still close with her. She knows I'm, hanging out with her husband, and I know now his side of the story, and her side of the story, and I love them both.
Mm-hmm.
But there was definitely some discrepancies,
Sure.
and I'm just saying. So that was the closest I've gone, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
With her. We never took it too far, and that was put to rest back then and there.
Nice.
And I'm not against it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't think I've ever, like, I don't know. It
But
hasn't, if I meet the woman that is like really cool and like, like meets
yeah,
me on the level I want to like
yeah,
enjoy a relationship, I don't know. I
yeah,
wouldn't be against it.
yeah, yeah,
But I've never had a sexual experience with a woman.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like a little, yeah.
We're gonna take a quick break and then we'll get back on. So like, we just moved inside. So like, that's a thing that could happen
It's
on a.
getting hot.
It got hot. It got hot outside, um, and we went in and recharged our batteries, and
Took a walk, like centered.
huh, yeah,
Do you remember what we were talking about? It was
about.
the poly that yeah,
Oh,
it
but
was the woman
back
thing.
when we
Yeah,
were recording,
yeah.
with the women.
It was like how far, like
Oh yeah,
how far I experimented
well yeah,
in
and
that direction,
that's
which is not far, not far.
yeah,
But I wasn't like I was open to it, but it didn't,
right,
it didn't end up being a thing.
right. But and what do you notice like how much? Because I think this is true for men and women, but I wonder if maybe it's different for women. How much more accepted LGBTQ plus stuff is now? Like, I mean, it's like the idea. Well, like, when you grew up, do you remember it being like like it was less of that
Oh,
maybe?
yes, yes. There was like I mean in Bulgaria, like and I remember in the '90s when it started happening, they started having parades, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was definitely like people were like, "Oh my God, like what is
Uh-huh.
happening?" But then what was really cool about it, there was a lot of famous personalities that were on TV that were like actually like coming
Coming
out,
out,
and
yeah.
it was like, and it's almost like it was always there, but now they're like more open about it, and it was cool. It's like they're normalizing, so it was very cool that part because people started seeing it more on TV, and because it wasn't accepted in the beginning. No, it was like very kind of like I know like the older people were like, oh my God, like whoa. And when you think about it, it's been forever.
It's been
And
around forever.
all these people were like that went on TV. They were kind of like you would know, but you couldn't put your finger on it. You know what I mean?
But and then gay marriage, the big thing with gay was like gay marriage, making gay marriage legal, and then once that happened, it seemed like that kind of a big milepost or something was like
Well, yes,
passed.
but it's still not like in where I come from. It's still not a thing.
In Bulgaria, it's
Yeah.
not so much. So you don't think like you wouldn't have had the same opportunity to experiment maybe in Bulgaria, like
I wouldn't have.
it would have been more under the like
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't
like
know.
a hidden thing,
I'm
a
very
secret thing.
like I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. Like if it's something that's really like on the inside is like, you know, brewing, I wouldn't be able to suppress it,
Sure.
at some point.
What
I
what
wouldn't be trying to hide it. I don't know.
what else is Bulgaria like? Like what's the like is it very traditional or is it
It's very traditional. Like this, this we have like our holidays that have like traditions tied into it, and people are like very much into that.
mhm.
And I like it. I like having traditions. I like bringing that part, to the table when it comes to, like home living and
What
traditions are what I associate holidays with, not necessarily religion.
are there any holidays in particular that are celebrated there
Um,
more than here or there but not here?
Not really, but it was interesting when I was actually a kid, like before the Iron Curtain, because I was in that part, like I grew up in both sides, like before and after,
Mhm.
and we actually didn't have Christmas. Christmas wasn't a thing until literally the year after. And then I wasn't old enough to kind of grasp the whole thing, but my mom explained to me that it's basically there was always a tradition associated with Christmas, but it wasn't an official holiday, like it was kind of oppressed, we couldn't really like put it as a holiday officially, and people weren't celebrating on Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
And at some point, as soon as that like changed, it was like boom. We had like all these like Christmas bazaars and all of the fun stuff, and we have all these traditions all the way all of a sudden like rolled up, and it was like we have a very cool tradition in Bulgaria for Christmas.
But it was being.
Like a special meal, like the meal on Christmas Eve is, it's like all vegetarian, like it's all like vegan meal. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like to represent, there's the 40-day fast, but people don't fast, so like you just do it the night before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like kind of, and then Christmas Day is not as big holiday for us, but it's Christmas Eve. So people will just have that dinner, and then after that they will exchange gifts, and you have the tree. But before that, we would have a tree, but it was New Year's Eve that was the celebration. So we would just have a big celebration for New Year's Eve. But there was no um, Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a
Gosh, so
sudden there was.
the Soviet bloc did censor Santa Claus. Like they didn't want Santa Claus
They
around or
had
whatever.
Ded Moroz, Dad Mraz, which
Oh.
is like somebody that comes on New Year's Eve,
Huh.
which after that became Santa Claus. So they had it, but it was kind of hidden. People were still doing the traditions, but it was kind of hidden, and because when it wasn't an official holiday, people couldn't like take the time to celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
But New Year's was official holiday, so they kind of tied some of the New Year traditions into the Christmas traditions, and it was a little mix up. And all of a sudden, we had these a week of celebration, between Christmas and then it's New Year's, and it was different then.
Mm-hmm. So you remember some like, well, so Bulgaria was not a Soviet republic. It was kind of more like Hungary or Poland, where they were like,
Yeah, yeah, we were part of the communist bloc,
yeah.
but we weren't part of the Mother Russia.
So it was only
So we're
after.
very tight,
So it
we
was
all had to speak Russian.
really.
We'll learn in school, to a certain level. More or less when I was at that age, it was still kind of a subject, but it wasn't as pressure. By the time I got to that age, it wasn't a thing.
Do you remember any Russian or
I can understand
you
Russian.
can
I can
understand
like
Russian?
say a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always it's a
Have you?
good tool to have.
Yeah. Have you traveled around there?
No, not in Russia. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, what about in Europe around Bulgaria,
Like the
the neighboring country? Have you been around?
Yeah, yeah. I've been to like Romania, Greece, Serbia, Macedonia, Turkey. Like they're all like the neighboring countries, and
There'd
the Balkans. They're all in the Balkans.
be like family trips in those places and stuff, or
Family trips, friend
you
trips,
got
yeah.
older, you do a little
Yeah, like all
traveling.
of that. And I'm even like I'm going this summer, so I might, because it's so close, I might just jump over just for a day and just experience the Turkish food or Greek food,
Mm-hmm.
just put it kind of, yeah, mix it up a little bit.
So how? I guess was your was it after your divorce also the first time you dated like non-Bulgarian men? Kind of like was that also a?
No, so there was that period of time when when I first came to the States, and I did, not the very first time, but maybe the second and the third time, like I came, I dated somebody, and it was just like a short-term dating thing, and it was fun. It wasn't anything like, that was gonna grow, because I wasn't planning on staying, and
Mm,
so it wasn't like, oh my God, like
no,
we have
not
to
as much
make this
pressure.
work,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, there wasn't that pressure.
What
So I dated, like, yeah, Americans, and then I moved to New Zealand, and I dated some
Kiwi?
Kiwis. There was
I don't know. Is that's
one.
not a rude
No, no,
thing to say? Call
no, no, no. There was one, but I did. It was kind of more. That's when it got more international for me. There was a French guy, there was an Italian guy, there was an Argentinian, Brazil. It was like,
Oh, because
like just kind of.
New Zealand's kind of a melting pot that way. There's like a lot of different people from all around.
Yes,
Okay.
and I was certainly in that very diverse community, so it was cool. I've always enjoyed that. Like I've always been very open to like new people and cultures.
So you don't find so it wasn't like harder to date outside of your culture. Like it was pretty much it's pretty natural. Like the love
No,
is a
yeah.
universal language or something.
It felt that way. I didn't feel like any like a barrier that I had to like get
Mm-hmm.
over. No.
What were you? So your family didn't really talk to you about Christmas or that much were they religious, secretly religious, or was there any? Were you raised with any much in the way of that, or
So
does
my
it? And how does that
mom,
impact your way now around relationships? You think?
so my mom is like religious, but not like fanatic, none of that. But she kind of like she would take us for the holidays to like church, and in Bulgaria that's what you do. You don't go to like every week or anything like that. But like for a holiday, kind of like there's like a special event that like we'll go and
Mm-hmm.
light a candle, and that was always interesting. That's how you exposed to a religion where it's not like intensely imposed on you, but it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of more like you associate with a holiday, with a tradition, and I never saw it as a bad thing until like I grew a little bit more and I learned a lot more about like what religion was doing, like and how it was, you know, how like the Inquisitions and all that. I'm like, oh hell no, like that's horrible. So now I'm non, like I'm not tied to a religion. Like I'm not an atheist, but like I don't like spiritual, but I'm not a Christian or I'm
Hmm.
baptized Christian Orthodox, but I'm
How
not
old were you? How old were you when you were baptized?
oh baby.
Oh,
They,
okay.
they do it like when you can't even say anything.
Oh, so but then that had to be a secret at the time, right? Because that was when the underneath the Soviet bloc, right? So the
No, it
baptism was
wasn't.
okay. It's
Yeah,
just
baptism
Christmas
was
is not
okay.
okay.
Like I
Okay.
think everybody baptized, like
All right.
but it was like certain holidays. Yeah, that's an interesting. I need to. You know what? I've never questioned that.
Mm-hmm.
How was
Mm-hmm.
I baptized? But
Mm-hmm.
like we couldn't have Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Because the church was like the church was existing, but I guess it was um, I don't know. The church like certain holidays were like because Christmas was associated. That's what it was. I think it was Christmas was associated with a Western civilization,
Okay. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
feeling like maybe would
That's
have been.
interesting.
I have to ask.
Well,
Honestly, like I don't know.
well, I guess it's only. I mean, it's kind of seems off topic, but it's but also like a lot of the stuff we're talking about with like swingers versus traditional families. Like the traditional beliefs
Yeah.
come from churches a lot of times, or temples, or
Yeah, my dad was not like my dad was
Uh huh.
my dad was not baptized. He wasn't like like he would not go into the church ever. But
Right.
like he'll drop my mom off and be like, okay,
But yeah, yeah, and my dad was also not religious. Like he was raised
he
in a
wasn't
religion,
against
but
it.
he,
It's just like
well, right. Same with, but my dad was like, but after he left his church when he was 21, so he's like, oh, I'm, he sort of he called himself an atheist, but then he still like his morality was still kind of
conservative.
affected by the fact, yeah, he was conservative. Yeah, I guess I would say.
Yeah, that's the thing. I certainly did not. There was a moment when I was little, like there was when you first start understanding religion, and like, oh my god, and I'm like, oh wait, it's not, like you start to form your opinion, and so I'm very grateful that I didn't have to break any of like that, like, oh my god, like I have to be careful what I do, how I do, like
You
in
weren't
terms of like more like when it comes to like a man-woman relationship, type of thing. Like I didn't have to be like
you weren't heavily indoctrinated, so
no, no, none of
so
that. Yeah.
therefore, like, so that you could have some relationships and experience, maybe that I guess I don't know.
Yeah, my mom was like, she would literally be like more talking about like it's like some holiday, and like that would be a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and she liked respecting the religion, but she wasn't like, oh my god, you have to go to church, none of that, and she wasn't that person also. So.
And did she have that like? Do you have a sense of when they were growing up? Like, did they have? It's not like they had arranged marriages or anything like
No,
that. Yeah.
they didn't, and they did. Oh, they did have a. They have no. They did not have a church wedding because my dad wasn't into it. He wasn't baptized and he wasn't into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no, they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Um. So. So nowadays, like, if you go out with somebody and you find out they're religious, how have you dated anybody who is religious, and how is it?
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah.
A Rastafarian.
Okay.
Which I didn't like at first. He was
Mm-hmm.
He when as soon as he got comfortable, and he literally brought up like it was like I was looking for somebody who's open and we could like read the Bible together. And I remember like sitting down with my friends and telling them what he had just said. I'm like, I just don't think I can do this. I mean, I think it's cool, but I think now I'm starting to have second thoughts because this sounded a little bit, And then I found out he also had like that very, dominating kind of personality, and we were living apart, like it was like a long distance, so it was kind of like cool. It was kind of very
Yeah.
like slowly, and and I and it was me just trying to find the right way to not offend them, but also tell him like this is not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was the whole thing long distance? Like, did you guys have, all that was?
yeah, we basically
So it
it
wasn't
was
like
mostly like a just like a from afar
you
talking,
had a
and he
relationship
wasn't
already.
making like the extra effort, but he was starting to have all these demands about me, and I was just like, no, it's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was, he brought that talk, and I remember I was like, oh, that's not gonna, that is not me. I can't do this.
Do you think that? I mean, do you think that?
And I wanted to be able to practice
Right.
these things, but not involve me into it.
Right. So you could imagine being in a relationship with somebody who's religious, as long as they're
I
okay with
don't
you
know.
not being religious, or even maybe.
I don't know. I mean, if it gets like a little out of like, I can't be with somebody who's so like fanaticized about
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yeah, I don't know. Like it has to be like a certain level of like common sense, and I felt like there was no common sense in that.
Yeah. I sometimes get that with religion, with
Yeah.
people that it, there should be it should be based on logic. What they're saying, if it's
I
not,
feel like it was part of his
sometimes,
personality that maybe like it
yeah.
was also like a factor in me just understanding that he's not gonna be one of those guys that's gonna be chill about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is
If
there?
he was maybe okay, I would
Uh huh.
probably be.
What about if do you think it would be? Could you imagine it the other way, where somebody was like not religious enough, like they didn't? They're like, oh, I believe that we're all, or I'm a not what is it called, a nihilist, or like I believe in like nothing, life is meaningless, or something like that. Like
No, because they would be too pessimistic, and I can't
yeah,
like
right,
date
right,
a like pessimist. Like I don't know. I've dated, and it's like that. It didn't work
yeah,
because I just can't. Like I'm like really don't see anything. Like
yeah. Interesting. So hope is important. It's like a hope is a value, like be a value that you're sort of like, yeah, like optimism, hope. Yeah, yeah.
yes, and I was kind of like, well, I could let it swing if I like somebody, but it becomes a problem when you suppress something. It becomes a problem. I don't know if
Interesting.
you've had that experience, but
Well, like suppressing. You've mentioned suppression, yeah.
I
Like,
mean,
so it
if
could be.
you like think like okay, let's see how far this would go. Like if I, like yeah, he's just who he is, but he's cool about this other stuff, and then eventually it starts to get like especially if you find something else you don't like about this person, or like, and it just becomes this negative thing that at one point you don't see them as that as the person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be a, you know.
Yeah,
So when it's a learning curve. I had to like learn that okay, this is my level of tolerance. I didn't know.
yeah, yeah. I want to come back to that, but another one that I think, well, another couple like just sort of like things that come up in relationships. So one is, um, like sort of stage of life. So like I noticed that dating in just 10 years ago, like dating in our 30s, there's a little bit more of a pressure free environment, especially for guys. Like, oh, well, I'm not ready for a long term relationship. No problem. Then we'll just go date and have fun. But now it's like in your 40s, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to start thinking about having kids, and then that becomes this whole thing on the apps of like, okay, does this person want to have kids? So like, that's so. Do you want to have like you have a kid? Are you open to having kids? What's your
No, no more kids.
yeah.
Um, Up until like not too long ago, maybe I was, but at this point, it's like starting over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of work. been through enough to like with me and his dad separating that I don't know if I want to like now bring up this whole thing. So I don't know. I feel like that's it for me. I just want to focus on him, and I've made that decision. There was a like if he was a little bit younger, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like at this point I don't. Yeah, I've decided. Like one is him, the other one is me. I I'm already at a level like I don't want to start over with raising small children. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Do you have kids?
No.
Yeah, so it is a lot of like it's. And I know I struggle. Like I feel like I was looking forward to having a kid. Well, first I wasn't. Like first when I was young, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna have kids. This is too crazy. Like it's scary. Like but that's like the young, like oh my god, like So I was very scared to like get pregnant. And my friends started having kids, and I started hanging out around them, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, this is so adorable. But then there was, like a girl that we became roommates in New Zealand, and she had her daughter. She was single. She like there was a like this situation that happened, and she was single,
Single
and
parent. Yeah.
single parent. Her sister came from Brazil to help her out. They were from a very wealthy family, so they were doing okay. They were like but she didn't have you know um, the like she was raising the kid alone. It's a long story, so I'm not gonna go into it, but it was cool. We lived in this beautiful house. We had like this amazing time, and with this little baby, having adventures and all that. So I thought it was really cool, and I actually started thinking about having kids then, and not necessarily thinking about having a kid with somebody, but having a kid.
Mm.
And so I don't know if subconsciously I always saw myself as like being more of a like raising my child alone, but I didn't realize it. I don't know.
Well, it's like I mean, it's way more common today than it was 50. Like right, like 50, maybe 70 years ago, it was like
Yeah,
very
very frowned
unusual.
upon.
And now, yeah, now it's like celebrated, right? Like,
Yeah, it just looked like we were just having this beautiful life, and then I met this guy, and things progressed, and I had told him at the time, like look, if I get pregnant, like this is where I'm at, like whether or not you want to be part of it, I will be having this kid.
wow, that's a
And he wanted to.
independent spirit. Yeah, that's like, yeah, it seems like a path
Like
toward.
I wasn't putting a pressure on him,
Yeah, yeah, but it's like,
um,
yeah.
because he was certainly not trying to be careful about it. And I'm like, okay, but you got to know this. Like if you're not, if we're not following the steps that like so we're not having, so I don't tie you into it's like this is where I'm at, and and he was like, oh, okay, and then boom, 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 it happened. When you start thinking about having kids, they actually come.
Mm-hmm.
Not not for everybody. Unfortunately, there's people that but you can make it happen very quickly.
Hmm.
And I was ready, and I was excited, and it was supposed to be this beautiful thing, and it was. But it also like once there's me like not being very careful about choosing a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have kind of separated myself a little bit early on before things got too complicated. But no, we ended up, like making it work, and like, you know, married and all the whole thing, and and things didn't get better.
Mm-hmm.
Things actually got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, committed to this thing, and now he doesn't want to like, let go of a kid that he knows. It's like if it was like something that he didn't know, maybe I would have just been like, okay, just stay here, here. But and it was hard, and it kind of ruined in a way like the way I pictured motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to just focus on just having this baby grown, but I had to deal with this all this other stuff on the side, so it was very stressful. So it took me a long time to get over that,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
They don't. Yeah. There's. I think. Um.
and the
Like.
trust was lost. Having like, what if I never find a guy to like actually support me in my motherhood
Yeah.
the way I want?
Yeah.
And I was like, there was a fear,
Yeah. Right. Well, it's like hard. Well, I mean, it must have been super hard to realize it wasn't going to work. I mean, just I don't know. Like you said, it's like lots of regret over the partner choice, but then it's also like, dang, once you're in and you have a kid together, then it's like you want to make it work for the kid, even. But then it's like
Until
then
it's
some.
healthy, and I realized when
Yeah.
it wasn't good, I mean, we had to like, we
Yeah.
had to put it to a stop, and it was tough in the beginning, but now we have a beautiful relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and he's finally, after he's worked on his sobriety and stuff, he started to kind of be a little more, understanding, but it wasn't gonna happen while we were in it. It was just worse and worse and worse, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
not fun, and that kind of took a little bit of the joy of parenthood for
Mm-hmm.
me,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I couldn't just focus on just being a parent and having like I had to do all these other things,
Uh-huh.
put all these fires, and it was difficult.
Uh-huh.
And I feel that maybe in a way ruined me for like wanting to like open up to have a child with another person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it would have taken years for me to earn that trust, and then like and after certain years, you don't want to be like starting over, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't, and
I mean, how much? So I guess the question is like, how much is that like the elephant in the room when it comes to dating? You know what I mean? Like when we're dating, the issue of like, because I don't think it's on the apps like whether you have kids, but there's not. It's not on the apps like whether you want to have kids. You know what I mean? Like, and then I don't know how soon in a when you're dating somebody does it usually come up? Do you
I
feel
mean, I'm
like
42, and at
yeah
this point, people should realize that it's not like something you just this. I mean, there's at this point it's called geriatric pregnancy.
yeah that's
I
right.
don't want to be tied to anything geriatric yet, any geriatric term.
Sure.
But like when you're going to date a 42-year-old woman, you kind of should, I mean, understand that
Definitely, that's like
that's
oh
a
no,
big ask.
yeah, you're not gonna have like four kids or something like that. But there's like, yeah, no, I mean, probably like oh maybe there's like one or you know what I mean, or there's the thought of like adopting kids. I don't know, that's
I could be open to adopting an older child.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why an older child?
I've always wanted to have adopted. Like I've always, since I was a kid, I visited an orphanage when we were in school,
Uh huh.
and like I always wanted to adopt a child
Uh huh.
because there's many and they could use it.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, so you've seen orphanages where that's like those are the children that are. So like when you imagine adopting kids, you imagine those kids you met at orphanages.
yeah, and but then I grew up to find out it's not that easy.
Sure.
It's really not, and especially if you're single. God, it's difficult, and the reason it's older kid is, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to sleep.
Uh-huh.
My son kept me awake for like until he started kindergarten. So it was like, do I need to do
Oh yeah.
another like 5 years of that, or like can we skip to the part? I love babies, but it's that part, like there's, I was always like, is he breathing, and is he like, like it's all.
A cat is good practice because it'll wake you up. The cats will wake you up.
Yeah, they're good. I guess how you train them, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just a newborn is a lot of work, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was fully into it,
Sure.
like I knew it was gonna be this and this and this, and it was all that, and then some, and I was like prepared for. I was like, you
Yeah.
know, but then it just like I don't think I can do at
Yeah.
this point.
Do it
Like
again. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it again. I'm like no. I'm like enjoying a little more my time to myself, and I'm finding my life is a little more calmer, and I'm like no, yeah.
I guess when I turned like when the pandemic hit, I was like 42. I was 42 when the pandemic hit, and then so it was like okay, man, I got to stop messing around. It's like I got to, try to meet somebody, but it it's tricky.
Did you get scared when the pandemic starts? Like, okay, that's it, the end of it, dating for a minute.
No, I think it might have been coincidental, or it was like the pandemic started, and it was like, oh, well, maybe this will be easier to do dating in a more serious way because there's, if we can't even see each other in person, it's easier. Like we're stuck having to get to know each other, in some kind of brainy, more intellectual way. But then, yeah, I don't know. I got caught up with one woman who turned out to be kind of not as serious as I thought. She was, and that took like a year, and then it's just been kind of like learning what I didn't already know, like learning lessons I thought I already knew. But part of it is like I wasn't sure about the kids thing, and then but it seems
You didn't ask.
it sort of clicked for me at some point. Like I think the point of like the urge I have to be in a relationship is to have kids. Like it just sort of like, oh,
Oh, you didn't know, like how important was
that's right, that's right.
the
Like
kid. Like
yeah.
you, 42 years, you didn't think about wanting or not wanting kids.
Well, I think it's common. I think men don't think about it as much.
Oh, okay,
A
yeah,
little
that's
bit.
true.
I mean, and also the culture. Like when I was younger, it was not. It's funny. My parents didn't put any pressure on me about that at all. But when I turned like, I almost got married when I was like 32, and when that didn't work out, and then I didn't get right into some other relationship, my dad started being like, "Hey, you should get. When are you gonna get married?" So like in like later in my 30s, like my dad started pressuring me, but I just was I was like, where's this coming from? It didn't make sense. I didn't get it, and I was kind of like, what's the I don't know. Do I want to have kids? I don't So it was like just yeah, slow
I mean,
coming to it.
you still have that, because I guess for you it
Options.
doesn't come that, that way. But
I would be an old parent. That's an issue. It's like
if that's an
my
issue,
kid's a
yeah,
teenager. I'm gonna be in my 60s. I won't be able like he'll be able to
if you take care of yourself, it really isn't like I know older, like I know
Mm-hmm.
old parents,
Mm-hmm.
like I know, I worked with somebody and it wasn't an issue. I think they weren't telling their like he was much older than his daughter thought he was,
Sure.
but he looked like very good, so it didn't matter, like. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, why would you not tell your kid like how old you are? But like it's you could make it work. I think for women, at a certain point, there's that like risk.
Sure. There definitely.
So
Yeah.
there's definitely for women, it's more like a clear cut. Um,
No.
but for a man, gosh, like didn't Robert De Niro have a kid like
Yeah. He did.
a
I
couple
think so.
years ago or something?
But then there's this, and then also there's like, well, then I'm like biased toward dating younger women, and men are typically biased for dating younger women, but people are like, oh well, men they like younger women, but it's like, well, no, there's a real like, there's kind of a legitimate reason to to be biased toward it. Now the other thing is though, like I'll be like, well, maybe there's a woman my age who I'd be a better match with because we have similar maturity or something like that. But then it's like, well, I don't just look at women way younger. You know what I mean? Like also I'll look at women my age, and
But 30s is a good, like, anywhere in the 30s
sure,
is
of
like
course,
a good.
be
That's still a big
a better thing. But like,
dating poll.
but so it's like 40s. It's like, well, maybe let's go out, and then it's like, well, do you want maybe I could ask the adoption question, and maybe it's an adoption thing. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, because adoption should be more often conversation. I feel like I'm open to that.
yeah.
Like to give a child an opportunity, and like I mean, even if it's a baby, I don't know. That's because then you can't like travel. You have to like do, and I like to travel and
Yeah, yeah.
do things, and yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, but adoption should be like more like how is it in this year? Like adoption is such a taboo. Like
Or right, it's like it didn't all the different things that became norm like more like a lot of small things became more common, but that one still pretty not that common, right? Like
it's money. A lot of
yeah.
it's money, and sadly not. Like I don't know. There's like all these cases that you horrible people, and
Mm-hmm.
but that's usually like foster parents, and I don't know what's that like. That's different thing. Foster parent is different than like adoptive parent, and these people just kind of like they do like some of them do it with good intention, but some of them do it for the money, which is horrible, and the court like the system can't tell, so it's like that's bad. And then people like complaining about like same-sex couples like adopting kids, and I'm like, oh my god, if they can like they can provide us beautiful life, who cares?
Mm.
But that's just me. There's a lot of people that are still so stuck in this, like that a family should look that way.
Tradition,
Yeah,
maybe, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate like that. It's good to have like this balance of masculine and feminine, but who's to say that you actually need one male and one female to have that balance? Like a lot of males are very feminine, a lot of females are very masculine. You could have so you could have it you could have masculine
it's
and
the
feminine.
church.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like drinking a little water. But it's yeah, I don't know. I think you should still, if you have to, like make it clear for yourself. If you, what's important. If kids are important, just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you'll find people
Mm-hmm.
that want
Mm-hmm.
to have kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's, a lot of times I feel like the limitations are for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because even I feel I maybe limit myself too because I'm so like, well, I don't want to find somebody that I have to constantly like check with, because now I've been single for so long, and all of a sudden, what if you like, relationship, and then I check myself like, well, if he's the right person, none of this will be an issue. I'm
Right.
like, stop, because I'm thinking like, well, what if like I can't go here and the
Right. So like
places I'm
asking
used to like get up and go.
so just like thinking ahead too far. In other words, like
Yeah,
it could be that you have if you make these if you ask a bunch of questions in front, like, oh, are you this? Do you believe this? Do you believe that? Then you can find, and maybe that's what happens with online dating is that you have all this
expectation.
information. Well, you can rule out a bunch of people just based on like some question,
That's true. And
and they
what if
all
you
get
miss
ruled
something?
out, and then yeah, you would be so it doesn't matter what you don't experience every one of them and see whether you have chemistry or don't have chemistry.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like I'm still kind of, yeah, I check myself, I'm like, no, stop like thinking about that because I'm comfortable, like now, like I've put it out there, I'm like, well, I'm comfortable, but I also like, I do think, what if I'm older and I want to have that partner, and every once in a while I'm at home and I'm like, gosh, I wish like I had somebody to help me with this, and here I am, like, fixing, like tightening up a thing in the bathroom, and it's kind of nice to have the man in the house for it to be like, hey, can you help me with this? But then I'm also like, well, what if I also me in a relationship is like, let me fix that, like I got this. So I have to like practice more. So
Like we have to let go of some like yeah. If there's a comfort level, I mean it's important to become comfortable being single, so you're not needy or dependent. So that's like yeah you're in good you then you show up at the relationship and you're not gonna totally fall apart for the other person like oh you know
yeah, if they have to
without
like
you I'm
stay work
lost.
later or like go out of town for something, like
And
yeah.
yeah, and just and you can show up and be giving rather than just get like yeah, it's like a giving instead of getting type of thing. Like
Yes.
yeah,
Like I'm comfortable and I kind of allow him to like go into my world and like, like if he needs to fix something or cook something, and I let him like do his thing
uh,
without trying to do it my way or how I'm comfortable, or that sort of thing. Because
mm-hmm.
that's sometimes I feel when you're single for too long, it's a little bit too, and when you get too comfortable. So that's why I'm like, okay, let's see, let's not be that person. Let's be open, and but the main thing is, people don't they're not honest.
Yeah. So it's nerve. So yeah. So you let somebody in, and then they.
You're
But
not
then
very
there's gonna
comfortable.
be like.
You're not very, like if you like somebody, you head over heels, and so much so that you kind of like, you're afraid to like disclose certain things about yourself that are important.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because you and maybe that's well, like if you're tied to the so people are dishonest so they can just they'll say whatever they need to say to be in the relationship, and that leads to of course it's gonna fall apart later or something like that.
Yeah, like I'm honest, like I like to say that, like there's a thing about, like I need to know if this person, has like a healthy relationship with substances.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a nice way to put it, out there. So
Right. So nobody's gonna say, yeah, I'm even because people
yeah,
who don't have healthy relationships with substances don't
realize it.
admit that they don't have healthy
Hmm.
relationships. They will deny it. That's what's part of what's unhealthy about it. Yeah, yeah.
And it, and there was, somebody who I was in a relationship, like my one relationship after marriage. I had a relationship that it lasted longer than, it wasn't dating. We actually moved in together. And I
Wait,
remember that
when was
person
this? What was after marriage?
after, it was like that was 4 years ago.
Okay.
That was 4 years ago that
So this is the most serious relationship after marriage, pretty much.
yes,
Yeah.
I met somebody. It was online on Bumble,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we, and it was the perfect kind of dynamic. It wasn't like any, like sexual pressure or anything. It was just like we were just having fun and talking, and it wasn't like it didn't become like more, like we just didn't jump right on, like it was very gradually, it was very sweet, and it was like perfect. We had a lot of things in common. We could have this conversation. It was great, and I shared a lot about my past, and like my, like obviously, I was married. So I said like, this is what happened, and I like to drink. I don't like to restrict myself because somebody can't
Mm-hmm.
restrict him, can't handle it. So it's kind of important for me to know, the kind of person, like, and I tell like, I'm a little bit wary of like people who can't, handle the alcohol
Mm-hmm.
well. And he's like, oh, and he was all like, oh yeah, and so was drinking. I know, and like he was like very, like he came from this like a very different side, put it like, like kind of siding with me on that, and we were getting to know each other. He actually got into some accident like shortly after we started dating, and it was like a something dropped on his head, and he had this concussion, and he had this hyper. So he couldn't drink for a while. So he like actually had to like not drink and take this medication, and so that's the person I was getting to know, right? And he was
It
so
could be looked at as a
awesome.
red flag, but it could be, yeah, I don't know. Seems okay. So there.
Yeah,
So,
and all of a sudden, like, and he then he had to be, not he didn't have to, he couldn't work, so that's all, like people go on medical leave, and then but then he wasn't working, so he's getting into like just, at home getting bored now. The medication ended. Now he like started, drinking, and it was, and at some point I noticed he started to have these like very like like that pessimistic talk, that like very like insecure talk, like that kind of, and so it progressively, the picture started to paint a picture basically, and I was like, whoa, so I had the conversation with him, and I said, look, I feel like maybe, like do you think like the drinking, maybe you haven't drank in a while? I didn't know him. I was still getting to know him, and he's like,
otherwise,
oh no, there's not that, and it was all lies, right? It was like, come to know, like he actually, like, it got really bad. He wasn't stopping, and actually, I come to find out, I shouldn't have. I should have known more about this person, but like, as I got to know his family, like, oh yeah, he, we don't hang out with him because he will get like that. And, it was, so I learned about it,
Yeah. The
So it
concussion
was like,
helped. Yeah.
so it was very, and at this point, I'm like, now, now he's still not working and there's all this thing and I feel bad and and like he was very remorseful when I first asked him, okay, this has to end, and he was like, no, 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 let's work it out. I'm gonna, and it wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but I was very open about it from like very early on, and it wasn't like a pressure on him, but I told him like this is what I'm not, this is my non-negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
and
Was it a long thing to break up once it sort of because he moved was that very
yeah,
that was
it
one of those
was,
things. Yeah,
it
yeah.
was, yeah, because it was like the guilt tripping, and it was like the whole, and yeah, it was like a lot of stuff, and
Did he have kids or was he just
no,
okay?
and
So
then
just,
he didn't have kids, and it looks like he was in a relationship with somebody before with kids, and they never had kids. She had three kids, and
mm-hmm.
they lived together, and they never had kids. So I was like, I assumed he wasn't, but then at some point he started talking about kids.
He's an experienced stepdad. Okay, and
He was an experienced stepdad, yes,
he started to want to have kids.
he started wanting to have kids, and for a moment I was like, well,
Sure.
like when you were in love and you were kind of like feeling, that.
That's part of what that's about. Yeah.
But then after these things started happening, and of course I was like, this is there's no way I'm gonna like do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh, what about politics? Like, is there like, can you date somebody with different politics? Has that ever been an issue? Have you ever like
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
could be an issue?
I'm very liberal, and it's not necessarily like tied to like democratic, like.
Democrat,
Yeah,
Republican.
I just I can't be with somebody that thinks like you need to like earn necessities, like super like it should be hard to earn like
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. That's just, yeah, I feel like this, you know it will be, it would.
You want to,
Yeah,
so it could just be though like that's you want to evidence that somebody has like compassion.
compassion is important. Like, I mean, have you, I don't know, like I've met some compassionate Republicans, but I, you know
So they give to charity or private. They think it should be through private charity and not the government or something like that. And
yeah,
that could be okay potentially if they believe that
yeah, I don't know if I don't, I've never really, I mean, I've never met somebody conservative that I was like, oh my god, like I could get over this. He's so hot. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, I don't know.
Does
My
it
values are like there, and it's just.
is it usually like are the people you date usually all necessarily like liberal like politically engaged liberal, or are they just some like people who just don't aren't as concerned with politics like
They're not as conservative, possibly. Yeah.
just or like just not political like people some people aren't very political like
Some people,
you
yeah,
like
and if they're,
you could date somebody who's not like just doesn't really
I
concern
think
themselves with that.
so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. But then again, there's that moral, like, I mean, do you care about what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, you see me, I'm like, what's happening in LA? That's, that kind, like, I, I don't, I'm not, I'm not disconnected like that, like,
Yeah.
I'm not disconnected like that. And I, if they're a good person, I don't know. Honestly, like I'm trying to think now. Like now you had me thinking. Like if it's somebody that doesn't care about politics, yeah, that actually is like doesn't care about politics, cares about people's well-being.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like he has to be compassionate. He has to be caring.
Yeah. Yeah.
That he has to has these values. Like all people should have. Like the respect and like their
Yeah.
needs met, and that kind of stuff. Like not like these are like secondhand people.
Right.
Like that's where politics comes, you know, becomes a problem.
Right. Right. And I mean that makes That makes
But he
some
doesn't have to
sense.
talk
It's like,
about it all the time. No. But you know what I'm.
so you've dated people who talk about it all the time, and you've dated people who talk
No,
about it not at all, or
I don't really talk about it. To like,
most people you've dated, it's not a big issue.
I don't talk about it, but like if it comes to like quality of life, and like, I don't. Yeah, that's tricky. Like I feel like I don't talk about it, but I care. Like if I'm prompted, I'll have an opinion. you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. How would you like? Maybe I care.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to be an activist. He doesn't have to be like, oh, I voted. None of that. But like, he needs to just be, generally caring person. Yeah, I actually dated someone. Like when I say I didn't date like a million of people. Some of these people, those stories just over, like they have, different aspects. But so this one person had actually shared with me that his previous relationship, when they broke up because she wanted to have kids, he was not ready. He had a very like distressing childhood, and he was still working through stuff at the time. So he had like told her they were living together. So they separated, and he said we had that one last breakup sex, and she had assured me that she was like still on her
Mm-hmm.
medication or whatever, but she did get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like I felt like betrayed because now I have a child that I cannot raise like a real man, like a father, like be there for him because I'm not like but
Can
no,
you
but
just
I'm trying to.
couldn't you just get back together with her? I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, she's pregnant.
But
Well,
I'm trying to.
get
No, he
back
did
in there.
not. I don't
Yeah.
know. That was like that was already the kid was a,
How
a toddler or
you know
whatever.
the show? There was a show, a TV show about a guy. I'm forgetting the name of it now. It's British, but this guy goes and has sex with some just like a one night stand with some lady, or maybe it's like 1 week stand. He's an American. He's visiting London, and then but then she's pregnant, and he's like, what? But then he goes out there and then marries her, and then they like have a family.
Oh my god, which
Um,
yeah, I think I remember something.
yeah, I'm blanking on the name now. It's good. He's an alcoholic, and he was sober. He was in the program, you know. He like relapses season 3 or something like that. You know, goes through that whole. Uh,
Oh, I don't know. I know.
but yeah, something like, I mean, I forget. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. But anyway, but I thought that was nice. You know, it's like that's what you're supposed to do. If you like accidentally get somebody pregnant, you're supposed to go and
To step it up,
step
and
in and say, hey, okay, I got you all. Let's get married. You know.
I think he was showing up, but
Yeah,
he said like he still felt like he wasn't, but now it's like
it was
more
too.
her kid,
He
and
didn't
he's
have the
just like a
option. Yeah, yeah.
part-time dad, and it's like he felt a lot of regret, like it's like I still like love that kid and want to give him the best now, but it's like I feel like it really put him like in a weird place when he didn't,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I mean the other besides men being more conservative than women, the other stereotype is that men or maybe both sexes get more conservative as they get older. And I guess I found that, I mean, like during the pandemic that happened to me a little bit where I was like because we were locked down and I was kind of like, why are we locked down? Like I mean, I knew it was okay for the first month or two, but now it's like, okay, I'm ready to go back to life now, and
Oh yeah, we all thought that. Like it was, yeah. I feel like it was, over the top. Like it just didn't. It feel like it was like this air.
but it was also an election year. It was an election year, and everybody was mad at Trump, especially around here, and that was like that was more important, right? Like it was like, well, we got to get this guy out of office. And it seemed like getting him out of office meant like you had to say, well, it's his fault. He's ending the lockdown too soon, or he's being rash, or he's this, or he's that. And so I don't know. I found myself like getting sort of I don't know. I like
Oh, people will call you
I was
like,
very against Trump in 2016, and now I'm kind of not because it's just like it just I don't know. I just sort of put up with the. It just seemed like the reaction to him was like overblown. I don't know.
people are giving him too much, power. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah. Well
mean,
said.
like
Well said.
I
They give him
think
too
it's
much power. Yeah,
like
in their
honestly, what's
minds, they give him too much power in their minds. It's like
yeah,
he's not.
and frankly, like I mean, yeah, like whoever we had, like whoever was like the Democratic choice was also like, hey, I didn't care for them either. Like
Right,
it's
right.
like, and it's like at one point you're just hoping for the best.
Definitely.
Like let him surprise me, but we're not even gonna talk about like the whatever's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's just like to go too much into politics, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I'm like, I like to care about things happening because I want people to be well. I have, we have the moral obligation to like do this work for the kids and all of that, but I cannot like give my energy to like this or that and like fight people that to tell me like who's right and who's wrong and
Right,
like
right,
why are we giving so much power to these people?
right. That's a good way of thinking about it. I wonder. I thought during at some point like, oh, this is it's harder to navigate dating because I'll note like I noticed that that's
Oh
like a lot of women are I have seen dating profiles where it says you know go like I've seen one or two women that are like
no,
go
it's
MAGA.
such.
I'm all MAGA. If you're liberal, go home. But I've seen 100, 1,000 women who say, "Oh, if you're MAGA, go." Like it's way more the amount of women who are like, if you're conservative, forget about skip me. And I don't always skip them because sometimes I'm like, well, I think I could get along with somebody in another, even if I see things differently. But I'm surprised how much that's like
Yeah, I see.
in
Like I
people's
guess
profiles.
if we're talking that aspect, I guess that's not that important to me. Like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's like it's good to see who you are as a person, where your values lie.
yeah, yeah.
But realist reality is like a lot of people who do follow Trump, they're very like, like it.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
say he walks on water, and it's like it's
Right,
hard
right.
to,
Yeah,
like
you can.
that's where you hit the wall.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna go with you
Yeah.
to a Trump rally. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, but if he's, like, okay, well, I voted for Trump because I believe that this and this and this, he has the power, like,
yeah,
no other president did, which there's a lot of things. But, I mean, but yeah, like, you can't, like, if you're trying to, like, rule with yeah,
it
I'll
would be a
go on, like,
discussion. It would be
yeah,
a
the
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah,
Like, I don't want to go, and there's, obviously he's shown us he shouldn't be there for a long time. He should not be there for a long time. I feel like it's just too crazy.
yeah. I'm afraid though that it's. I'm afraid because I do agree with people. Like I can't disagree that it's gotten crazy, but I'm concerned that it's gotten crazy just because like our society is like we're in a crazy place. You know what I mean? Like it's not coming. It's not coming back to not
It's
crazy. It's
becoming
not.
the normal.
It's like him going away isn't going to make it. Things go back to normal. It's like uh, it's just like we've been. I don't know. It's just like 2025. Like
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
like
of things. Just,
people are.
9/11. It got crazy. 9/11 was crazy. Like in
Did that divide?
2001.
Did that divide people? Would you
Not
say?
at first, but I think that.
Because I wasn't here at
No,
the time.
for a minute it united people. Like there were like you go on a people were waving American flags on street corners and stuff. But I think that maybe there's like maybe like America was more confident. This is the theory I have. Like maybe America was more confident, and then 9/11 happened, and people were more nervous, and so maybe they couldn't take losing in elections as well after that. They got more, you know, they got more angry. Like because they're
Because we were
more
going
freaked
after the
out now.
Taliban's at
Yeah,
the time, and
well, and because we got attacked, so we're vulnerable. So now we're going to be more freaked out and less reasonable. So everybody got less reasonable. Like
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe people are always unreasonable though. Like that's also possible. But
At the end of it, like you're right. Like I shouldn't really like focus so much on politics. Like I'm very like I could see things both sides. But when it comes to like hurting kids, I mean, like taking away, medical care from people, it's like really this like I can't. That this is just like I can't like really
Yeah,
justify that. I'm sorry, I can't. Like there's other ways to make a point. That's where I'm at, but
yeah.
and if anybody, like kind of comes to some sort of agreement, I think I could tolerate that, but
If they, yeah, there's you got to have some kind of, got to be able to have some good faith argument about it, right, rather than like be just like like yeah,
yeah. I also like as I'm talking this, I'm realizing like I'm not picturing this from a standpoint of like if I if I just date this like I think if I live with this person, it will be difficult. Like if maybe, but but then again, if I decided to live with somebody, then I'd like something about them. So
right. It's interesting. Casual dating seems like more like there's a like in my 30s when I like discovered casual dating. It's like, oh, this is fun, and then you can like it's hard to break up, but but if but it's fun. You can have a lot of fun just in the dating. But I think that maybe for it to be fun, you have to believe that maybe it's going somewhere, even if it's like
right, like
somewhat.
this person has your back, like in a way, like
But you at least have to be able to have the fantasy,
yeah.
even if you probably know it's not going anywhere. Like you have to at least be able to persuade, like maybe think, well, maybe it could go somewhere. So let's keep. But what do you
Where
mean
are we
about
going?
having your back?
Like for me, it's like I'm having a like let's say I'm having like a hard day and like I have to do A B C D and like like I can't get to this but it's important to me. It's like
Yeah,
what I got this,
yeah, yeah,
Don't worry. Let me like go and like
yeah,
pick this up for you or like
yeah, yeah.
something like that because I would do that, right?
Somebody
To
you
kind of
respect
evaluate
them.
like hey this person's like that kind of thing, not like actually like pay my bills or
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah,
But generally, like for him to care, like that I'm that I'm comfortable where I'm at, like to like I'm going where I need to go, like don't
yeah.
take my time like when I like because a lot of the time like relationships can be very consuming, time
They are.
consuming, and
Yeah,
that I've noticed like it could be to a point like I'm trying to focus on work and you're like texting me like oh like where is this or you need like things like that or why are
yeah,
you not answering and it's like that's not productive,
yeah,
that's not productive.
yeah. That's true. It's hard to make. It's hard to make sure all relationships are like going. But that's what I mean. Well, that's what I mean about going somewhere, right? Like,
Yeah, like
is this is this a positive thing? Like, is this going in a place that is yeah, productive? Yeah,
yeah, like I've worked all day. Like maybe if you were kind of like a little bit early, like if we live together, for example, like hey, instead of like, why don't you like just get a head start? Like, just you cook, general, like Usually, I like to have somebody like if I'm dating, like I like to know they know how to cook. I'm not gonna cook for them.
hmm.
I like to cook for them, but not have to cook
Not
for them.
regularly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
not to
can't. You're not
have.
a regular cook.
So
You're
it's kind of like to him to like just let's just getting home a little later. Like let me just like
sure.
do that instead of wait for her to tell me like
Yeah, you want.
then I don't have to tell it.
Well, it's like I mean, probably a lot of it is like just looking for a grown up, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like can you be
that you can
there's
read the room and just kind of be like, okay,
probably there's a lot of immature people out out in the dating pool, or like maybe we're at our most immature when we're dating, like because we're looking for some kind of fantasy, so we all show up a little bit that way. I don't know.
could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm like I could be very, like I could be. I know I'm not like I'm very like I like things done that way, and I have to like just remember that like, but this person maybe doesn't have that same idea, and that's like a thing that need to like just or when they say like, can I do this, and I just to
I mean, that's another thing that goes around is that that people's friends. That I hear this. I hear people making fun of women this way, but I think it's true with men also. But make fun of, like, oh, women will tell each other, oh, you're perfect, or you did nothing wrong, or you're like, when in fact, like, there's a better friend would say, like, oh, well,
I would do that
do
for a
this,
friend.
that,
Yeah.
and well, yeah, I like to think I would too, but I know how it is. Like, it's definitely it's hard to tell a friend something
In
like
the
that.
moment, don't tell her. Don't tell them.
Right,
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 like
right.
right when they're going through it. That's the key. Don't tell them like right when they're going through it, but then definitely like assess if you think like because I did this, with my friend, and I said I'll tell her, and I want to be told too,
Yeah,
but it's not everybody's very honest, so I have to be honest with myself.
that's right. That's right. Well, it's like that's that kind of on. It's like that's like what a therapist does for a person. Is like they can be on. They're like if they're paid to listen, they should be able to tell them honest stuff that they can hear. Right? Like a good therapist would do that.
I don't know. I've been like, and I kind of noticed they just listen, and they might ask you a question so you can figure it out, but they're not like necessarily giving you like, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is your experience different? Or?
Well, I mean, I've had a therapist that would only ask me questions, but I always thought like this guy's bored. Like he seems bored. He's just like, sitting there doing his job. He's like, I'm not supposed to give advice, so I'll just ask. Say more about that. Can you ask? And it's just like, what is this? And then I had a therapist who actually gave me advice, and I liked him better. Like he didn't give me that much advice. Like he didn't make the whole thing like, listen, now you got to like. He didn't browbeat me or anything. But I thought it was beneficial. We, you know, I think I just want to say this has been really. This has been really. I mean, I'm running out. I feel like we're running toward the end. I saw you look for.
Oh no,
Let
no,
me
I
let me
thought
let
like
me
it
let
was
me hand you that.
buzzing, and I was like, can I just look and see if there's something that I need? Oh no, we're good.